Not every muscle car was a big hit. Some, even with their big engines and bold designs, just couldn't live up to the hype. Muscle cars are often seen as symbols of power, speed, and performance, but not all of them were successful. In this video, we're going to look at 7 muscle cars that completely flopped. Whether it was poor sales, mechanical problems, or just bad timing, these cars didn't make a lasting impression. And trust me, some of the cars on this list will surprise you. What went wrong with these muscle cars? Let's find out. Number 7. 1974 Pontiac GTO. The Pontiac GTO was once a legendary muscle car, known for its speed and power. But by 1974, things had changed. The 1974 GTO was a huge disappointment for fans who loved earlier models. Why did it flop? One big reason was downsizing. The 1974 GTO was built on a smaller, less powerful platform. Instead of the big engines people expected from a GTO, it came with a weaker 350 cubic inch V8 engine, producing only 200 horsepower. This wasn't nearly enough for muscle car enthusiasts who wanted real power and the timing. Well, in the 1970s, new regulations made it hard for car companies to build the high-performance cars people were used to. Plus, the oil crisis meant people were more concerned about fuel efficiency than raw power. Fewer buyers were interested in muscle cars. All of this led to poor sales, and the 1974 Pontiac GTO became one of the biggest disappointments in muscle car history. Number 6. 1971 AMC Javelin AMX. The 1971 AMC Javelin AMX was AMC's attempt to compete with the big names like the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro. It had a bold look and some strong engine options, but it just couldn't keep up with the competition. AMC was a smaller company compared to Ford and Chevrolet, so they struggled to get the same attention. Even though the car had good performance, it wasn't promoted as well as its rivals. Another issue: timing. By the early 70s, muscle cars were starting to lose popularity. Rising fuel prices and new emission rules meant people were moving away from high-powered cars, and the Javelin AMX got caught in that shift. Lastly, competition was tough. The Mustang and Camaro had huge fan bases, and the Javelin just couldn't win over enough buyers. Even though it had potential, it didn't stand out enough to make a big impact. As a result, the 1971 AMC Javelin AMX became one of the forgotten muscle cars that didn't live up to expectations. Number 5. 1970 Plymouth Superbird. The 1970 Plymouth Superbird was one of the most unique-looking muscle cars ever made. With its long nose and huge rear wing, it was designed for NASCAR racing, where it did really well on the track. However, when it came to everyday drivers, the Superbird was a flop. Why? Well, it was just too extreme for most people. The aerodynamic design made it great for racing, but on the streets, it just looked odd. Many buyers didn't like the oversized wing and pointy front end, which made the car seem impractical for daily use. Another issue: price. The Superbird was more expensive than other muscle cars at the time, and not everyone wanted to spend that kind of money on such a strange-looking car. Plus, it came out at a time when muscle cars were starting to decline in popularity. With rising fuel prices and stricter regulations on emissions, fewer people were interested in high-performance cars. Because of all this, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird didn't sell well, and it's remembered today as a muscle car that was ahead of its time but didn't connect with everyday buyers. Number 4. 1969 Ford Torino Talladega. The 1969 Talladega was built with one purpose in mind: dominating NASCAR races. And on the track, it performed incredibly well. But when it came to regular customers, the Talladega didn't gain much popularity. Why? One big reason was its limited appeal. The Talladega was designed specifically for racing, with a streamlined front end to improve aerodynamics. While this helped it win races, it wasn't something that average buyers were looking for in a daily driver. It didn't have the flashy looks or street presence that most muscle car fans wanted. Another issue was availability. Ford only made a small number of Talladegas, so not many people even had the chance to buy one. This limited production made it hard for the car to gain a strong fan base. Lastly, timing hurt its success. By the late 60s, the muscle car market was crowded, and while the Torino Talladega was great for the racetrack, it didn't stand out as much as other muscle cars on the streets. In the end, while the 1969 Ford Torino Talladega was a winner in NASCAR, it flopped as a street muscle car and failed to capture the attention of the everyday car buyer. Number 3. 1980 Chevrolet Corvette California 305. The 1980 California 305 is often seen as a low point for Corvette enthusiasts. While the Corvette name is known for power and performance, the California 305 didn't live up to that reputation. Why? One of the main issues was the engine. Due to strict emissions regulations in California, this model came with a smaller, less powerful 305 cubic inch V8 engine, producing only 180 horsepower. Another problem was timing. The late 70s and early 80s were tough years for performance cars due to rising fuel costs and stricter environmental rules. Muscle cars, including the Corvette, had to tone down their engines to meet these standards, which made them less appealing to enthusiasts. The poor performance and lack of power made the 1980 California 305 one of the most disappointing models in Corvette history, and it struggled to impress fans who were used to the Corvette's powerful legacy. Number 2. 1978 Dodge Magnum XE. The 1978 Dodge Magnum XE was Dodge's attempt to combine luxury with muscle car performance, but unfortunately, it didn't hit the mark with buyers. One main reason it failed was its focus on luxury over performance. Muscle car fans wanted speed, power, and aggressive looks, but the Magnum XE was more about comfort. It had lots of luxury features, but its base model had a weaker 318 cubic inch V8 engine, which wasn't powerful enough to excite muscle car enthusiasts. Another issue, the design didn't stand out. While it looked sleek, it didn't have the bold, aggressive style that muscle cars were known for. As a result, it didn't attract buyers who wanted a powerful, eye-catching car. In the end, the 1978 Dodge Magnum XE was stuck between being a luxury car and a muscle car, and it didn't do either very well, leading to its downfall in the muscle car market. Number 1. 1982 Ford Mustang GT. The Ford Mustang is an iconic muscle car, but the 1982 Ford Mustang GT didn't live up to the high expectations that came with the Mustang name. One of the biggest reasons it flopped was underwhelming performance. The 1982 Mustang GT came with a 5.0-liter V8 engine, but only produced 157 horsepower. For a muscle car that was supposed to be fast and powerful, this was a big disappointment. Muscle car fans expected more speed and power, and the 82 GT just couldn't deliver. Another problem, the design. While earlier Mustangs had a classic, aggressive look, the 1982 model had a more toned-down, boxy appearance. It didn't have the same bold styling that people loved about previous Mustangs, which made it less appealing to buyers. Because of these issues, the 1982 Ford Mustang GT is often remembered as one of the weaker points in Mustang's long history. It just didn't have the performance or style to live up to the Mustang legacy. These 7 muscle cars may not have lived up to the hype, but they still hold a place in automotive history. Each one had its own reasons for failing, from poor sales to performance issues, but they also offer us valuable lessons on how the muscle car scene evolved over the years. If you enjoyed learning about these failed muscle cars, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more automotive content, and let us know in the comments which muscle car flops surprised you the most.